Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing a quick but deep dive into the conservation of energy in systems. Basically, we're going to trace exactly how energy is conserved, transferred, and totally transformed in the physical world all around us. We're going to make the invisible mechanics, well, visible. So let's start with a really relatable baseline. Picture this. You're standing over a sandbox, and you drop a bowling ball and a golf ball from the exact same height. You already know what happens, right? The bowling ball creates this absolutely massive crater. But let's actually unpack the physics of why that huge disparity exists, especially since gravity is pulling on both of those balls equally. It actually boils down to a pretty straightforward linear relationship between mass and kinetic energy. So if you double the mass, say you swap a 5-pound ball for a 10-pound one, you exactly double the kinetic energy upon impact, assuming the speed stays the exact same. So mass is basically your steady, predictable lever here. Okay, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with kinetic energy basics, then hit forms of kinetic energy, shift into forms of potential energy, and finally wrap up with energy systems and circuits. All right, part 1, kinetic energy basics. This is all about how mass and speed dictate power. Now, when we compare the levers we can pull to increase energy, the results actually diverge wildly. Like we said, a linear doubling of mass gives you a neat linear doubling of energy. But compare that nice linear effect against the massive exponential spike in energy you get just by doubling an object's speed. It's a game changer. Speed is the true multiplier here, because velocity is squared in the kinetic energy equation. Doubling speed doesn't just double the energy, it literally quadruples it, a 4 times multiplier. This is exactly why a car driving at 60 miles per hour doesn't just have double the destructive energy of a car doing 30, it has 4 times the destructive kinetic energy. Kind of terrifying, but fascinating. Let's move on to section 2, forms of kinetic energy. These are the moving energies we can, and sometimes can't, easily see. Because kinetic energy isn't just macroscopic things like cars speeding down a highway or bowling balls. It's also electrical energy, right? Negatively charged particles running through a wire to power your morning toaster. It's electromagnetic waves, like the microwaves cooking your food or high-energy X-rays. And it's sound energy, where plucking a guitar string vibrates air particles straight into your ear. And then you've got thermal energy, which is the total kinetic energy of all the microscopic particles making up a substance. The faster those little guys bounce around, the higher the temperature. In fact, heat is literally just microscopic kinetic motion. If you completely stop that motion, well, you hit absolute zero. Okay, shifting gears to section 3, forms of potential energy. This is the energy an object has just waiting to be unleashed. We can generally categorize this stored waiting energy into 3 main buckets. First up, gravitational potential energy. This is based entirely on position and mass. Think of a ball resting at the very top of a steep ramp. Second, elastic potential energy, which is stored in tension when you change an object's shape, like a compressed spring or a stretched rubber band. And third, chemical potential energy, which is locked deep within the actual molecular bonds of substances. And honestly, fireworks are the absolute ultimate showcase of chemical potential energy. The energy isn't stored in a physical spring, it's trapped in the unseen bonds of the explosive powder. Breaking those bonds instantly transforms that chemical potential into a massive, violent release of kinetic energy. You get blinding electromagnetic light and booming kinetic sound, all in a fraction of a second. Which brings us to our final section, number 4, energy systems and circuits. Let's see all these concepts in action. Before we build our own system, just think about the macro scale of the electric grid. It's this incredibly complex network that works by pulling wildly different energy sources. It takes the kinetic energy of water rushing down Niagara Falls, spinning wind turbines, electromagnetic solar energy, and the chemical potential of fossil fuels. It takes all of that, transforms it into electrical energy, and pulls it into a single grid to power literally everything in your house. But let's scale that way down and look at a basic local system. Imagine your hands acting as the conduit here. You gather a standard D-cell battery, a light bulb, and some insulated copper wire. When you connect the bare ends of those wires to the positive and negative terminals of the battery, you are directly tapping into a reservoir of chemical potential energy. Then, you connect the other ends to a light bulb, and boom, you complete a continuous loop, which we call a circuit. Instantly, the battery's chemical potential energy transforms into kinetic electrical energy. It drives those negatively charged particles right through the copper wire. And when those moving charges hit the bulb's filament, the electrical energy transforms yet again, this time into radiating electromagnetic visible light. So we just tracked how hidden chemical bonds transform into moving electrical charges and finally into visible radiating light. The law of conservation tells us that energy is literally never lost. It just constantly changes costumes. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this. If a basic loop of wire and a tiny battery can facilitate all of that, look around you right now. Every device, every breeze, every ounce of heat is just a link in an endless chain of energy transformation. The real question is, what is the true source of the energy powering you right now?